Okay, well, Al, here we are. Thank you so much again for having me in your home. This means so much to me. And as we were talking even before we started shooting, you play such a big part in my story of even just this whole project because my daughter and I came to that first show, and that first night we met you and Gina, and you were so hospitable and just welcoming and so kind to both of us, and just your smile and just you made us feel very welcome. And so, as I've been doing this over the last 14 months, I've always wanted to be able to sit down and have this conversation. So, I do really appreciate you taking the time, being willing, and being able to sit and have this conversation. So, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all you're doing for the Atlanta storytelling community. This is
Oh,
awesome.
well, it's my pleasure. Believe me, it's been a blast, and I've loved getting to know all of you and the people that I've interviewed so far, and even just the people at the Moth who come on a monthly basis. There's the regulars that I've never seen on stage, but I feel like I'm getting to know them just waiting outside and
Right,
being in the lobby, and it's
right.
just such a great group of people. So
Yes, it is.
I'm
It is.
honored to be a part. So
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank
well,
you.
let's jump in. So
All right.
I'm
All
excited to
right. All
hear
right.
more about you and about your story. So if you want to start off just telling us a little bit about how you got involved in storytelling, and you can go back as far as you want. We'd love to hear Al Wiseman's origin story. So I'd love to hear
All
it.
right. I will tell you the whole story. So I was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, in a neighborhood called the North End, and it's kind of a rough neighborhood. And grew up in it. We had a lot of bullies in the neighborhood. We had families of bullies. We had second, third generation bullies. So as a kid, if you stood out in any way, you would get bullied. You'd get beat up. And I was this little nerdy, bookworm, curly head, scrawny kid, couldn't fight. And what I discovered is that my superpower was I had the ability to make people laugh. I had a great sense of humor. I would go to the library, I would check out joke books, I'd memorize jokes, and I'd come home and tell my family and friends. And back in elementary school, I'd say I was probably about 7 or 8 years old. We had this game that we played in the hood. It was called Playing the Dozens. And some people call it snapping, capping, ranking, signifying, depending on where you came from. But the objective of the game is to talk about the other person. So you talk about the other person, you talk about their family, and you cap on them. And it was kind of a contest. It was a battle of wits. It was a battle of words to see who was the smoothest, to see who was the funniest. So me and this kid named Christopher Knox, he was my arch nemesis. We meet on the playground at break, at recess, and we get together and we'd square off, and then a crowd of kids would surround us, and then we start capping each other, trading barbs backwards and forwards. It's like, man, you know, your family's so poor, they go to Kentucky Fried Chicken and lick other people's fingers. It's like, man, I was at your house and I crushed out a cigarette, and your mama said, "Who turned off the heat?" You know, it's like, so he's like, you trading these barbs backwards and forwards, and I got really good. I was the master at playing the dozens, and that was my superpower, you know. And little did I realize at the time, but that was my first time performing in front of a live audience. It was like you had this crowd around you, and when you say something sweet, you say something funny, everybody would laugh, everybody would slap high five. So I'm looking around, it's like, yeah, it's kind of cool, you know. And so I went through life with this sense of humor and ability to make people laugh. I got in sales using my communication skills, my sense of humor. And then about 30 years ago, I discovered Toastmasters here in Atlanta when I moved to Atlanta. And Toastmasters really helped me to develop my public speaking and leadership skills. I got the opportunity to incorporate humor in a lot of the stories and speeches that I was giving. And then in 2002, I entered the Toastmasters humorous speech contest. So Toastmasters have these contests, and this was the humorous speech contest. And how the contest works is you compete on the club. If you win on the club, you'd advance to the area. You win the area, you advance to the division. You win the division, you advance to the state. So this particular year, '02, I had made it to the state level, district level humorous speech contest. I had this speech called Miss Bessie the Hoopty. And Hoopty is inner city slang for an old beat up car, a junker, a clunker. And I was talking about my 2002 aqua blue Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme. This thing had 220,000 miles on it. So I'm on stage and I'm riffing, I'm making people laugh. I'm like, yeah, my car is so old, I have to have it fitted for orthopedic brake shoes. I said, my car burns. This car burns more oil than a deep fryer at Church's Chicken. And so I had the audience cracking up. So that year I won the statewide humorous speech contest. And when I won that contest in front of a statewide audience, I knew right then that I had the ability and I really had something to make people laugh. And that was my really first time introduction to and just how I grew in Toastmasters. And then I've always been an NPR nerd, so I discovered the Moth radio hour. I listened to it for many years, like many people that come to the show. And then about 5-6 years ago, I discovered they had a Moth Story Slam downtown. I started going, and I don't think I missed a show ever since. So it's been, the Moth has been great.
Yeah, it's for sure. Once you show up and you see what it's like and you experience it live, it's a whole nother level for sure. So I get that for sure. Well, and I will say, I mean, just from what I know about you, just hearing you interact and hearing how quick you are on your feet and how witty you are, it's not a surprise to me to hear that. And my wife is actually a middle school teacher, and so it's funny because I met some of her students and I can see that in them, and I'm like, this kid doesn't realize that when he grows up, his wit and his humor is gonna be beneficial, and so I think that's really a cool.
They may grow up to even host a Moth.
Yeah, right? You never know, right? Never know. Well, so you talked about performing in front of all those kids on the playground as a kid, but do you remember the first time you performed? And told a story on a stage. Can you remember that?
Yeah, it was probably that Miss Bessie the Hoopty speech. I mean, that speech was so huge. And you take a everyday situation like I was driving a beater. I was driving a junk car. And so my philosophy through life, even as an adult, has become what I call finding the funny. In 2010, I wrote a book called Finding the Funny. And I also have given a TEDx talk on finding the funny. And so that's been my philosophy on life, is that take a look at everyday situations and just find the humor in that. And so in that speech, I took an everyday situation. Here I was driving this old beat up car, and which was not funny, especially in the morning when you get in and you couldn't crank and now you're late to work, you miss your appointment. But what's the humorous side of that? We'll take a look at it, and then of course you take that humor, you exaggerate it, and you kind of blow it out of proportion. And so it's just making fun of the situation. And like I said, when I got on that stage, man, and had an audience, I mean, I think it was a 5 to 7 minute speech, and I think I got over 30 laughs. And just the power of being able to make people laugh and just having that audience in the palm of your hand and just being up there. And then again, being selected the winner. I mean, that kind of was like, okay, you got this thing, you can do this thing, you really got it. So it was an amazing experience.
That's amazing. Right. That's cool. Yeah. Well, and I was listening to a podcast this week, I can't remember which one it was, but they were talking about humor and just how today, even just in our climate, about how, things are just politically and around the world, and how important it is to continue to develop and to use your humor.
Yeah.
And this person made the point that, when you think about what laughter and what humor is, like laughter is, they say medicine for the soul, right. But it's a way for us to continue to look ahead and to have hope, to realize even in the midst of very difficult situations, if we can laugh about it, there's something, therapeutic about that, to be able to look ahead and be able to say, okay, if I can still laugh, I can still have hope about the future. And I think that's such a powerful thing. So I appreciate that. And people who are funny and humorous like you, when other people are around you, I mean, it's contagious, and so it's a gift. So I appreciate that.
I have this little game I play, and nobody knows I'm doing it. But when I meet somebody for the first time, my objective is I want to make them laugh in the first 2 to 3 minutes. I want to say something funny to make them laugh in the first 2 to 3 minutes. And my wife tells me one of the main reasons she married me is because I can make her laugh. So humor goes a long way. I mean, humor at work, humor in the workplace. Just being able to lighten up, especially like you said, in today where times and things are so heavy, just to be able to throw a joke in there and make people laugh and just lighten the mood is just a valuable gift I don't take for granted.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, as far as just thinking about, I mean, because you've mentioned Toastmasters, and obviously you're involved with the Moth, and I know from talking to Cheddar and some of the other people that you're also involved in Kumba, and so you know, even before we started this interview, you were talking about just all the ways that people could get involved in Atlanta and storytelling. That's just so many great opportunities to meet people, but also to get involved in this community. What are some of your thoughts just about the Atlanta storytelling community and what it's meant to you?
I would tell you, being involved in the Moth has been nothing short of life changing. Just having the ability to host is just, when they offered me to do it, it's just a great honor. I couldn't believe it. It's just, I remember after hosting for a couple of months, I was out in the lobby at the break, and a guy says to me, "Hey, you're doing a great job hosting. How long you been doing this?" And instinctively, without even thinking, I said, "Man, I've been doing this over 30 years. But I've been hosting the Moth only for a couple of months." So it's kind of like everything I had done in my life up to that point had prepared me for that moment and for the ability to be a host. And I think the Atlanta storytelling community, particularly at the Moth, and I think that word community really sums it up. What it is we're building a community of storytellers, of people who love storytelling, of people who love coming out. And every month, it just never ceases to amaze me in these days with all of this technology that we have, how people will come out, buy a ticket, and just sit in the audience to listen to a person on stage with a microphone tell a story. I mean, that is just, it's just so powerful. And the Atlanta storytelling community expands even beyond the Moth. One of the things that I get kind of frustrated with is that I'm in so many storytelling groups. I'm in Kauma Storytellers of Georgia, the Georgia Storytellers Network, a National Storytelling Network, National Association of Black Storytellers, Toastmasters, and all of these groups, and none of these groups know about the other groups. I remember when I first started coming to the Moth and having been in Toastmasters for 30 plus years, I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be easy. I got this. I'm used to telling stories on stage and that. But when I got on stage that first time, I realized telling a story is a lot different than giving a speech. And it's almost like I had to start using a different part of my brain. And I had to retrain myself from all of the things that I learned in Toastmasters to shift over into storytelling mode. A couple months ago, I gave a workshop at the statewide Toastmasters conference, and it was called From Speaker to Storyteller. And what I was telling these Toastmasters is that we got to get away from giving speeches and we got to start leaning more into telling stories, because stories are what affect people. Stories are what touch people's hearts. Stories are what makes the connection between people. You can give a speech and you can get up and tell a lot of facts and figures, but when you tell a story, it resonates with people. I mean, people connect. In that Moth audience, when people are on stage telling a story, you can hear a pin drop.
Yeah.
I mean, people are like leaning in, they're on the edge of their seats, and people can identify, with your story. And so storytelling's powerful, and again, it's bigger than the Moth. The Moth is bigger than me, it's bigger than all of us. In my 1 year, I celebrated 1 year at the Moth in June, and the Moth, people who produce the Moth, we become like family. I mean, we got our regulars. When you go there, man, it just uplifts your spirits. It's such a wonderful place. It's a cathartic experience. Hearing people get on stage and tell their stories and share their stories, it's just, it's been nothing short of life changing. I am so blessed and so honored to be a part of this thing. It's just, it's amazing. Right?
Well, and it shows. I mean, that's another thing that, it's obvious that you really enjoy what you do, and watching you and Belinda and Gina and all the other people who volunteer, it's special to watch, because I mean, you can tell that it very much feels like a family, and and you know that you're all in this together, but you know that you all genuinely love each other and enjoy being together. So that's also contagious. So when people come and they see that and they feel that, even if they don't ever get on stage, just being there, it definitely feels like you're part of something special. So and again, that's you and the rest of the staff and the people who volunteer. You cultivate that. You make that an experience. So I appreciate that. And
It's a labor of love.
yes,
A labor
totally.
of love.
Well, and I didn't realize this until just now, but you said, June was your 1 year anniversary.
1 year anniversary, right?
So that means that my daughter and I probably came to your first, maybe one of your first. So, because we've been coming since the June Story Slam of last year. That's
okay, right?
so. I mean, like our stories kind of line up. So we showed up, and
Right.
because you are the only host that we've ever experienced, and so for us it was like this is the way it's always been. So that's really
And
cool.
just a quick story about how I became the host of the Moth. So I started going to the Moth about 5-6 years ago, and initially going, sitting in the audience, not really telling stories. The thing about me when I was going to the Moth is if I didn't really resonate with the theme that month, I didn't get on stage. I'm not trying to get on stage every time. It had to be a theme where it was like, I got something for that one. That's a good one. I got something for that one.
Yeah.
So I started going, occasionally getting on stage, telling stories. And then I started volunteering. I was a scorekeeper. I was a timer. I started volunteering, helping set up and help break down. And all this while, I'm sitting at the feet of the master, John Good. I mean, John Good was the Moth. John Good hosted the Moth since its inception in Atlanta. And people went to the Moth not only to hear stories, but they went to the Moth to see John Good. And John Good was and is just a masterful MC and storyteller. I'm sitting here and I'm sitting at the feet of this guy. I'm just in awe of this guy. And then a couple months in, John announced that he was leaving the show. And it was kind of a surprise and a shock. And then things happened, and Gina asked me, "Hey, do you think you'd want to host?" I was, "Are you kidding?" I said, this would be such an honor. This is great. And then at the same time, I thought about how big it would be to fill John's shoes. So this was like, Ken Jennings taking over for Alex Trebek on Jeopardy. I mean, this is like, how do I fit into his shoes? So I shadowed John for a couple months and learned. And John assured me. John said, "Hey, man, you got this. You got this." He said, "Just develop your own style." He said, "Just be Al Wiseman." So he was sure. And so the rest is history, man. It's just been amazing just being the host of the Moth. It's a great honor.
That's cool.
Great family, yeah.
Well, I don't know John personally. I met him. I was telling you, I met him at one Creative Mornings event, and he was so gracious and kind to, after he had spoken, to answer some questions and just encourage me at where I was in life and just trying to figure out what I want to do when I grow up. And so anyway, every time I've ever run into him, same thing. Like just he's been very, just you can tell he's just a good guy and loves people, loves to interact and really cares deeply about the storytelling community, but just Atlanta and just the community in Atlanta. So it's really cool. Right? So
he's an Atlanta icon.
Yes, yes.
Right.
So you're doing a great job. Like you're filling in superbly. So I appreciate that. Well, as far as just thinking about going forward, I mean, obviously you're going to continue to do this in some capacity because it's who you are and it's what you love. But if there was somebody who was just getting involved or had come out to a few events and is maybe thinking about, I love telling stories, or if they grew up in a family, that was like for me, my dad it just always had stories when I was a kid. I mean, he just wasn't thinking about it, but when the family would get together, and even recently we were at the beach with my whole family, and my wife after the trip was like, she's like, "I'm not surprised that you love stories so much," because she's like, whenever we're all around, your dad's just got so many great stories. And so so for me, I think it was kind of a natural thing to be drawn to it. But for someone who maybe finds themselves in that same place but hasn't ever done it, what encouragement or what advice would you give to them?
That's a great question, and I think about this all the time. And I think the number one piece of advice I would give to people is to start in Toastmasters. Toastmasters is a worldwide organization developed to get people over the fear of public speaking. I've been a Toastmaster over 30 years. I would not be at the Moth. I would not be sitting here talking to you today if it were not for Toastmasters. Just in Toastmasters and in growing in Toastmasters, I started giving workshops and seminars, eventually became a professional speaker and trainer, all because of that Toastmasters training. If you are at the Moth and you're getting on that Moth stage for the first time and you have like no speaking background, that could be a little bit intimidating. And so I say find a good Toastmasters club and join, just give speeches. You'll get evaluated, you'll get feedback, you'll eventually get better, you'll get over that initial fear, you'll learn to present in front of an audience. And then the other thing I would say is that do some other storytelling venues around the city. As we mentioned, there's some other storytelling open mics that you can go to get practice. I mentioned some of the organizations I'm a part of. So to me, I'm a host, but first and foremost, I'm a storyteller, and I always will be a storyteller. I love telling stories, and there are different venues I go to practice and to hone my storytelling craft and to hone my skill. And so do that. The last piece of advice I want to give is that everybody has what I call a signature story. We talked earlier, and you told me about how you were at a point, in your career where, you were trying to figure out which way you want to go. Everybody has a signature story, and it's a point in your life where there was a turning point, a major turning point where you had to make a decision and things shifted and things changed. And when you think of your signature story, develop that signature story, tell that story on stage. One of my signature stories is a story I call The Business Card Case and the Bullet. And it was about when I was in Detroit and when I got shot. And so when you develop your signature story, find that signature story, develop that signature story, because that signature story is who you are, and it's how you became the person that you are today. And if you do nothing else but get on that stage and tell your signature story, then that's a powerful testimony to the audience. It's just telling people who you are. But, really, hey, just get on stage, practice your story, practice your craft, hone your story, and then get up there. And then most of all, just get on stage, be yourself, have fun. Now, I tell people, don't worry about winning, but just be genuine, speak from your heart, and just tell your story, and then you'll make an impact on people. So, just go out there and do it, man.
Absolutely. Well, that's great advice. So, I appreciate this so much. I mean, we're kind of getting close to the end here, but I don't know if there's anything you want to close with, or if there's something coming up Moth-wise, or events that are going on, anything that you would like to share. I'd love to give you the honor of kind of closing us out if you want.
Hey, thanks. I just want to, first of all, we appreciate so much what you're doing. You are the official Moth historian, and you're capturing all these stories from all of these great storytellers at the Moth. But I think one of the things that we realize as the team who produces and run the Moth is, and I told them, hey, this thing is bigger than us, man. This thing is bigger than all of us. And we're just blessed to be able to come and just present this show. And a lot of people don't see what goes on behind the scenes to put this show on and bring it to fruition every month. But we work with a great team of folks, a dedicated team of folks and volunteers, our producer Gina, and our timer, scorekeeper, all of the judges and everybody that put this show together. But we do it because, man, we love the audience, man, and we love doing this. And everybody on this team is so passionate about what they're doing. And every month we come to you and we give you our heart, we pour our heart out, and we just love to see people get on that stage and tell their stories and connect with the audience. And we just going to keep on doing what we're doing, man. We're going to keep on doing what we're doing.
That's right. I love it. And again, it's obvious. And so that was what the draw was, again, for me, was coming and seeing that and even putting this together, after coming 4 or 5 months and being at 4 or 5 events and getting to know everybody, the curiosity in me was like, I wonder if anybody's like has told the story behind the story. Like, does anybody know how these people got involved? And so for me, it was more of, I want to know this, so I'm going to do this because I want to know. And so, so to see how well it's been received, and again, I'm just honored to be able to be a part of, like you said, something that's so much bigger than any of us. Just to contribute in some way has been really fun. And
it's been a great job.
I appreciate it. Yeah. Well, Al, thank you so much for doing this. I will see you on Monday at the Story Slam. I'll be there. Looking forward to it. And so if you're watching this and haven't been, we want to encourage you to come out. So check it out. You can look at themoth.org.
Right.
and or is it .com actually?
Themoth.org.
.org.
Moth.org.
And
Yeah.
and so you can find the show times there for Atlanta, and it meets the Balzer Theater, the theatrical outfit. So if you haven't come,
And check out the podcast. Check out the
Yes.
on the Moth Radio Hour on GPB.
Absolutely, yep.
Yeah, they broadcast on Saturdays and Sundays. And
Yes.
I've listened to all the podcasts. I don't even listen to radio anymore. I'm just listening to the Moth
Yes,
podcast,
yeah.
man. It's
well,
great.
and
Stories from
that
all
brings
over
up
the world.
another good point. Is just again we talked about just kind of where we are as a culture and the climate of things. If you are not a contributor and want to give, just with radio and different things, kind of seeing some difficult times and losing funding. If you have not contributed and would like to, we would love for you to do that. So
Such
another
a great
way.
point. Yeah, we
to
need
get involved.
contributions at this time. Right?
Yeah.
Thank
So,
you.
all right. Well, Al, that'll do it for this time, but I'm sure we'll be seeing each other a lot.
We'll see you at the Moth.
Thanks.